about a high muckety-muck in a really high position that would have influence over the president's decisions. This person was an unpaid advisor, a volunteer, if you will. George Papadopoulos, a 30-year-old man living in London at the time, who met with President Trump on one occasion, that's right, one occasion, as part of a working committee on foreign policy. I don't know exactly what that means, but to me it doesn't mean that he's like a high-level person. And when you go through the statement of the offense, as they call it, basically what he's been charged with and what he pled guilty to, you'll find that, yes, this man had some contact with the Trump campaign. Yes, it had to do with Russia. But the responses are really unclear as to what the Trump campaign knew, when they knew it, and what they did in response to the information they were given. Let's get the information out there and talk about that first. Back in March of 2016, Papadopoulos admits to having interactions with an overseas professor that occurred during his time with the Trump campaign. Now, the charges against him have to do with him lying to the FBI about the timing of the communications. He initially told the FBI that he wasn't a part of the campaign when he made these interactions with this overseas professor concerning, quote-unquote, substantial connections to Russia. Turns out that he was a part of the campaign, or at least knew that he was about to be a part of the campaign, which is what he pled guilty to. When this professor found out that Mr. Papadopoulos had connections with the Trump campaign, he started talking about his connections to Russia and how he knew this female foreign operative who was related to Vladimir Putin and could get him information about Russia. He wanted to set up a meeting between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. Again, that in and of itself, not illegal in any way, shape, or form. The question becomes when a foreign power steps over the bounds of just having meetings and, getting to know candidates, getting to know how they would govern should they win, things like that, when they step over the line into influencing outcomes of elections. Meaning, when you start saying, hey, you want us to get rid of your opponent, we can give you X, Y, and Z. And that allegedly happened in these conversations. Now listen, let's set the stage a little further before we get to the interactions that happened in April, a month after this. But remember what was going on during the campaign itself. President Trump was out there saying how he wanted to have good relations with Russia, how he wanted to express that Hillary was a bad person. You remember all this, crooked Hillary and all that, and how he talked up, how relations with Putin were bad and how he wanted to, renew relations between the United States and Russia and all that, and it was taken as being, this is highly irregular and all that. Presumably, Papadopoulos took this to be, hey, if I can get us good with Russia, maybe I have something to bring to the table to the campaign. That's not in any records, that's totally me speculating, because what he did in April of 2016 is he had a meeting with this overseas professor, and he said that, the professor that is, said that he has dirt on Hillary, quote-unquote dirt, which includes thousands of emails. And again, we're unclear as to what emails we're talking about. Are we talking about the WikiLeaks emails? Are we talking about the 33,000 emails that were bleach bit and deleted and wiped off the server, with the rag? Remember that whole thing? We don't know what that was all about. There was also a discussion about meeting with this female that was in relation to Putin. Now, Papadopoulos is communicating with a quote-unquote campaign supervisor. Because remember, he's an unpaid volunteer. He's just, a foreign policy wonk or an expert or whatever he was. He was invited into the campaign to give input on something. Not on staff. President Trump only met with him once. And there's this vague reference to dirt on Hillary. Vague reference to emails. The female operative turns out not to be a relative of Putin. Surprise, surprise. And the campaign is getting all these emails, and there's no real responses coming back, at least according to the statement of the offense. Not until a response is given saying that Donald Trump is not going to be doing these trips to Russia to meet with whomever this professor wants him to meet with. To me, that may be a brush-off. To me, that may be the campaign saying, we don't believe you, we don't trust you, we're not going down this route, whatever the case may be. But again, this kind of all fits together when you fit in other pieces of news that you know of during the time. We know about Donald Trump Jr.'s emails about setting up a meeting with some woman that would have some information about Russia, and it turned out to be nothing, and it ended up being a waste of time. But we know that they were willing to take meetings with Russians, presumably to further what Donald Trump said, to create good relations with Russia, not necessarily to collude. That part of it is wanting in the statement of the offense. And the offense here is not the acts themselves by this guy Papadopoulos. The acts that are he's found guilty of, or that he's admitting guilt to, is lying about the timing of the conversations. That's what he's lying about. And by the way, if this information was out there, and we have all these unnamed people, such as the campaign supervisor, a reason why this person may or may not be named at this point, it could be one of two things. Reason one, there's an ongoing investigation about this person, and we may find out more later on. Reason two, this person actually did the right thing and didn't act on it because it was improper to do so, and may have communicated as much. One of two reasons. We'll find out which one it is when it pops up. But at this point, folks, here's what we have at the end of the day. We know that Trump's campaign wanted to meet with Russia. We knew that they, didn't like Hillary. And this guy acted in furtherance of it on his own, outside the country, in an attempt to get, I guess, Oppo research, if you want to call it that, an attempt to get dirt on Hillary, whatever you want to call it. But there's nothing illegal about meeting with this professor or with any alleged members of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for Russia, if that is even the case. I mean, this guy lied about this woman being a relative of Putin. How much credibility could he then have to the campaign or to Papadopoulos at this point is unclear. It's also unclear what they supposedly had, if anything. It's unclear how far the campaign itself went into investigating what this person had. But one thing that is clear is that Donald Trump was seemingly insulated from these communications, and a decision was made for DT, Donald Trump, in the emails that were listed and talked about in the statement of the offense, not doing these trips. So in this instance, under these facts, there is no step forward by the Trump campaign to go to Russia to get dirt on Hillary. It's just not there under these facts. Again, let's go back to what we were talking about with the whole Mueller campaign. Could it be that this could be used as a pressure point to squeeze people, such as this campaign supervisor that's unnamed and mentioned in there, or to further squeeze Papadopoulos himself into naming further names that he had contact with? Absolutely. This is what investigations do. They start somewhere, they find the pressure point, they apply the pressure, and they see what it gains them. At this point, I don't know what it's going to gain them from these people, considering that the White House said that this was an unpaid advisor that they met once with, and it looks, and according to Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the guy was given the brush off, like he had nothing. So again, these are all ancillary points, these investigations and the results of them themselves at this point. Could they be used for pressure later on? Absolutely. My advice to everybody out there is very simple. Judge slowly. This is not the time to jump to conclusions. There's no exoneration. There's no condemnation at this point. There's only additional facts that were being alleged. And if taken as true at this point, they don't add anything new to what we already knew, folks. They don't add the smoking gun. Did we know that Paul Manafort was a bad guy? We've known this for months. There was a raid on his house for computer records and files. There were discussions about him being this unregistered agent. We knew this already. This is not a surprise. Is it a surprise that people from outside the country would reach out to any connection to Donald Trump they had to see if they can pass on information? Not a surprise at all. Is it a surprise that the Trump campaign was interested in information from Russia? That's not a surprise either. Donald Trump Jr.'s emails showed that already. This is all old news. We know all about this. And that's why, to me, it's not a nothing burger. I'm not going to dismiss it. It definitely, to me, what it does is it justifies the existence of Bob Mueller's special investigation. There are questions clearly to be answered going from this, including what the state of mind of the so-called campaign supervisor was with this Papadopoulos guy, including what did the Trump campaign do, if anything, upon finding out about Paul Manafort? What was the reason for his firing after the convention and things like that? There's more than enough questions to ask over there. I think the investigation is going to continue, obviously. I heard it said on TV today that this was not the beginning of the end, but the end of the beginning. And I think that's an accurate statement. I think what we're going to end up seeing is pressure being exerted on these people to give up more information, finding out exactly what illegal activity actually happened here, if any. Thus far, I haven't seen any. And to me, really, the most important thing is, what did the FBI do during the campaign? If they knew that Manafort was a bad guy, why didn't they alert anybody at the time? Why did they wait till now to do it? That should be a question that should be raised immediately. As of now, the Trump campaign, you're going to distance themselves from Manafort. Obviously, that's easy to do here. The issues with Manafort go back to a time before he was in the Trump sphere. That's easy to distance themselves from. This Papadopoulos character, a little harder to distance yourself from, because there's regular communication with the campaign staff on the topic of Russia, on the topic of dirt about Hillary. And the good thing for them is that there was no action resulting from the information that Papadopoulos was providing. The fact that he's an unpaid advisor helps the Trump campaign. The fact that he was a volunteer helps the Trump campaign. The fact that he only met once with Donald Trump helps the campaign. I think that there's more to come here. Judge slowly, folks. We got a long way to go. I hope not too long, because we do have governing to do. Tax reform and healthcare reform and job creation and all that. We do have some real business to attend to. But until then, judge slowly, folks. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we got more show for you. Gene Baradelli, Behind Enemy Lines, will be back right after these brief words. Hey folks, I just want to let you know about a great opportunity for listeners of Behind Enemy Lines Radio. If you go to our website, www.behindenemylinesradio.us, and click on the same box ad on the right side of the page, you will get a great opportunity for a discounted offer to join SaneBox. SaneBox filters out all the unimportant email from your inbox so that you can really focus on what matters. If you're anything like me, folks, you get hundreds of pieces of email a day, not many of which is important. SaneBox's smart filter will get everything you need to fly through your inbox and finally make email work for you. It gets rid of spam emails, it deprioritizes emails that aren't as important to you, and it helps you unsubscribe from mailing lists and individual senders with ease. So again, go to www.behindenemylinesradio.us and you click on the SaneBox ad and you'll be given an exclusive offer you won't find anywhere else. Time for a little music. We call this, What the F*** is Maxine Waters Saying?
To be clear, you believe it would have been better to keep in place an FBI director who you said had no credibility to oversee this investigation than to find someone who you think would be a better choice?
No. But I believe the president thought that. Don't forget, you're talking about what some Democrats said, what I said, but don't forget, he was the president. The president supported him. He had confidence in him. It was within his power. And
but you said he had no credibility, so it would seem to make sense that he should get rid of him.
No. Under investigation, this president basically has interfered with an investigation where he may be implicated. That's outrageous, and that's why we're having so much of a conversation about it today.
The bottom line is that you think an FBI director without credibility would have been best served in this position to try to pursue this investigation.
I think if the president had fired him when he first came in, he would not have to be in a position now where he's trying to make up a story about why it does not meet the smell test.
Yeah. Something smells all right.
Understood. So if Hillary Clinton had won the White House, would you have recommended that